What is good, everybody? It's your boy, the Foodie Filmmaker, back at you with another episode. Oh, yes, we are back in the studio and we are back with yet another episode. All right, guys, so I hope you guys have liked the past two episodes that we've been filming here in the new studio. The past episode was more of a book review for Marlon Medina and his book, More Than Just a Dream, which is a fantastic book. Hopefully, you guys had the chance to check it out. If not, check out the previous episode. It's amazing. I go over some amazing things, really amazing tips and amazing tricks, and pretty much there's a lot of valuable knowledge that you can take, whether you're a content creator or you're watching this as a way to just, find out how you can improve yourself or how you can improve your creative journey, whatever it is, whatever industry that you're in. As creatives, we all need to help each other out, and this is one of the outlets that I'm using in order to help all of you guys out. So be sure to check that out. I'm sure you're going to take something from that episode. But without further ado, let's go ahead and begin today's episode. All right, so in today's episode, we're going to be talking about, there was actually something in that book that I felt like I wanted to elaborate a little bit more. Well, actually, there was a few things, but there's one thing that I want to talk about today, which is doing what you can with what you currently have at the moment. So here's the thing, like maybe you're just starting off in your creative journey, or maybe you've been in it for a little while, maybe you've had a few months in, and so far right now you've been doing what you can with what you have. Or perhaps you went the other way, in which maybe you didn't have the necessary tools, or at least you felt like you didn't have them, and you went and you purchased a lot of like good gear. You purchased whatever it is that you felt that was going to accelerate the process of you reaching your goals and reaching success in whatever creative journey that you're pursuing. And the thing is, that's understandable. To some degree, a lot of us want to get there fast, right? Because our time here is limited, right? And so we want to get there as fast as possible. We want to do as much as we can in the shortest amount of time. And in order to do that, we feel like we need to use the best gear possible. Not only that, but also in the creative space, we really care how our work is perceived. So the better gear that you have, usually that means that the better the quality of the work it's going to be. And so a lot of people, by default are going to want to praise it a little bit more, just because you used a more higher end gear, you used better equipment, you used better knowledge, or you used whatever it is, right? Whatever it is that you use in order to accelerate your process. You went and you bought it and in hopes that it would help you reach the top. And who knows, maybe right now it did give you a little boost when you were starting off, because that's what most of this equipment and editing software and all these things will help you do. They'll give you that advantage, they'll give you that boost. But the thing is that do you really need that boost at that particular moment? So here's the thing, and here's my take on, really, how do you approach this? How do you approach just doing what you can with what you currently have? So here's my thing. And like I said, this applies to any creative journey that you may be pursuing. And like I've said many times in this podcast, I myself have been a creative in other industries, not just the food industry. But for the sake of this topic today, I will be talking about my food journey, because I feel like that's the one that applies the most, and that's the one I really been into the most. So I've spent the most amount of time in this industry. So this is the one that I want to kind of use in order to explain my point here. So when I started in the food industry, I actually used a DSLR camera. Maybe some of you guys don't know that. Maybe some of you guys do. Some of you guys that were with me from the beginning, you guys know that I used a DSLR camera in order to capture all my videos. When I went to restaurants, I pulled out my DSLR and I looked like a professional, right? I looked like a pro, pulling out that big camera, that $1,000 camera, right? And I was making videos that way. And so because of that, because I was using the DSLR, my videos did look pretty good. They looked pretty professional, and they did stand out from the rest of the videos that were currently out there, because most food bloggers at the time weren't using DSLR. They were using their phones, and there's nothing wrong with using the phone, but using the DSLR I felt like it was going to give me an advantage. I felt like it was going to give me some sort of a boost. It was going to give me some sort of an edge, I guess, when it came to getting collaborations and having businesses kind of trust me a little bit more when I came in and stuff like that, right? And to some extent, yes, it did. So I'll tell you like the pros of doing that and then the cons of doing that. But here's the thing, before we even get into that, I did have prior knowledge using the DSLR, so it's not like I went out of my way and just bought it and then just started pressing record and just expecting for the content to look amazing and stuff. So I had used it in my previous job, in the jewelry job. So I had used the DSLR there in order to capture content for that specific job. So I had some prior knowledge. However, I had never really pushed that camera to its fullest potential because, like I said, I was in a job. I was getting paid pretty good. And so when you're in that kind of setting, and then I wasn't really, I guess, motivated. I wasn't really engaged in my job as well because it wasn't something I was passionate about. I was passionate about the creative side, about the content creation side, but I wasn't passionate about the industry itself. So this being jewelry, so I wasn't really passionate about that. I was kind of like whatever, So when I went and I captured content, I kind of just did it as a job, as a way to make ends meet at the end of the month. And so that's pretty much how I went about that. But now I was going to bring it into the food industry, which I am very passionate about. And I'm also passionate about content creation. So I was very, very passionate all around. So I knew I was going to push this camera to its fullest potential. Now, here's the thing about the DSLRs is that depending on which one you get, it's a little bit different the way you operate it, especially what you're going to be capturing. So when it came to the food industry, the complications that I had were that my camera. That camera does it takes a little bit to focus. It takes a little bit of seconds for it to focus. And the thing is that when I'm filming in the food industry, I'm filming in the kitchen, I'm filming in the back, right? And the thing is that sometimes the chefs back there, they operate really quickly, and so there's a lot of things going on, and so it was very hard for my DSLR to keep up. However, like I said, I had really good knowledge of the camera. So despite all that, I was still able to work around it, and I was still able to capture pretty good footage to the point where it looked pretty good and it looked very professional as well. And like I said, nobody was really doing that. And the people who were doing it, they were charging. So normally if you're going to pull up with a DSLR to a shoot, most people would assume that you're going to be charging, that it's a paid gig because you're using a high-end professional camera. You're not pulling up with your phone. And so no, that was definitely not happening. I was definitely not getting paid at all. I did get paid a few times, but just because I was using that camera and I was using it pretty decently to the point where I could make some money, but it wasn't like good money. It wasn't like money where I could live off the DSLR like that. That's just what's not gonna happen. Nowhere near. It was like a fun little thing. Like just a way to make like extra money, but it wasn't like anything big. But yeah, so that was kind of like that's kind of my history with the DSLR. So now let's get into like the pros of having a DSLR. So first of all, obviously, branding wise, so just perception. So when you pull up with a DSLR, obviously you're perceived as a more professional person. You're perceived as someone that takes their work a little bit more seriously. You're perceived as somebody who's more knowledgeable, somebody who has experience, somebody who is serious about the work that they do because they're pulling up with a very expensive piece of gear. And so that gives you an edge. It gives you an advantage, right? It gives you it gives you that boost of perception when you pull up. And so all of a sudden, the owners will be a lot more comfortable. They'll feel a lot more like, okay, like this person, I can trust them with my food. I can trust them with giving them whatever they want. And I want to give them whatever they want because, like, if you're pulling up with that kind of gear, they want to provide you with anything that they can on their end in order for you to do your job as best as you can, so that your work comes out good, and then it benefits both. It benefits benefits the creator, because the creator can post it on their page and show that off to their audience. And it benefits the restaurant, obviously, because it makes everything in the video look really good, and that could potentially attract a lot of new customers to come into the restaurant and try the food. And so that's really one of the biggest pros, really, for having good gear, but also had good lighting. So I had my lighting gear as well, and I had a good tripod, and I had everything pretty much, because I had pretty much everything, all my gear from my previous job, so I was able to like kind of bring it in, and so I was good to go. And had a good piece of software as well, and everything was good. I could handle like processing high-end quality videos, because the DSLR was recording at it wasn't recording in 4K, but it was recording at 1080p at 60 frames per second, and that was pretty good. That's actually a pretty good frame rate, and the quality of the camera, it was pretty good. It was superb, and you can tell like the focal length is really, really nice, and so it was a nice camera. It was a very nice camera. And so those are the pros, right? It gives you like a good perception. It also gives you it gives you the edge, obviously, over everybody else. It does differentiate you from other creators. So if that's something that you're going for, which is something that I was going for, then definitely that's a good way to kind of stand out, because, there's so many bloggers out there, so many foodies. So if you're able to use gear in order to kind of separate yourself from everybody else, then go ahead and consider it. Obviously, in every industry, it's different. Like in some industries, like having a DSLR might just be you might just be another person who's using a DSLR. So maybe pulling up with a phone might actually do the difference. So you got to check how is your industry, what are they using currently in there, and then you use whatever gear really that could help you to differentiate yourself. So that's kind of a key point to take from here. So whenever you're deciding like what am I going to pick out, like what I'm going to buy so I can improve the quality of my work, really keep that in mind as well. And so there's that. And then yeah, but besides that, I don't really see any other pros, because other than that, like you can pretty much get away with filming really good with a phone, because other than that, like everything else is basically up to you. It's basically up to how you use the camera. And so here are the cons. Now getting into the cons of going out there and start buying all this expensive stuff in order to make use of in order to produce a good quality content. And so, take this for example, like just right here, going a little bit on a tangent here, but, just take the podcast here, like this is all professional quality, a professional setup here. You got the background. The whole room is made for somebody to come in here and record, and like all the audio and everything. And the room is acoustic and everything. The mics are obviously high-end mics that can capture the quality of the voice really well. I'm actually using an iPhone right now, but I did used to use the DSLR when I first started recording these episodes, and that was actually the same DSLR that I was using when I was starting off my foodie journey as a food content creator. And so, but it seems that after I got the feedback from everybody, it looks like everybody prefers the quality of the iPhone, so I'm just using the iPhone right now. But yeah, so but everything else, what I feel that matters in a podcast is really the audio, and so the audio here is really good. And so here's the thing: would I have started this podcast, like if I had never podcast ever before, would I have considered coming in here, getting this studio, and renting out the high-end mics and everything? Absolutely not. No, because I feel like I would have preferred to just start off somewhere where it was a little bit more easier, where the barrier of entry is a little bit more easier, where really you want to you want to pretty much get the basics done. You want to pretty much get the flow going. You want to really see that this is something that's for you. So, like I said, I've done podcasts before, and I had never used high end equipment, but I had been in the setting already. I already knew how it feels to be here. I already know how it feels to communicate with a camera. I have already done it for like hours upon hours, and I know what it's like to be recorded. I know what it's like to be in front of the camera. I know what it's like to deliver a message. And so I had already practiced these things. I had already worked on my voice. I had already worked on coming up with content on the spot, as long as I know exactly what I'm going to be talking about. And so when I combine all those things, I already had the experience of being able to deliver. Now all I needed was an improvement in the equipment in order to bring it all together so that everything kind of fit nicely. But here's the thing, and so that's kind of a key principle here. So going back now to my food journey when I was beginning as a food content creator, the thing is that while I was using a professional camera and stuff, I personally don't feel like, even though, like I said, it does give you those pros, and those are the pros that I spoke about. Um, I wouldn't say that I would, if I could start this all over again, I would definitely not start off with a DSLR, even though the DSLR will give me an edge. Like I said, it does give you like that just because we're in this industry, and not a lot of people use that in this industry, but there is a specific reason why people don't use it in this industry, and that's because the DSLR in this industry is perceived as more of a higher end type of content. And so by you pulling up with that, it kind of signifies that you're gonna capture something that's more for a professional setting, as opposed to like social media. Because here's the thing, like right now, as a food content creator, I'm a food content creator for social media. And so the content that goes on social media, it's more for the average person. It's, for your friends, for everybody. Everybody uses social media and stuff. And so you don't have to, most people are not really into like checking if the videos on social media are shot with DSLR, they're shot with a phone. They're not really in for that. They're really just looking at the content and kind of consuming it based on the quality, based on the quality, as far as like the value that it carries, not really as far as like how it looks. Even though, like, obviously if your content looks good, you immediately, anybody will recognize that it looks good. Even the average person will recognize that it looks good. But will they consume it? Will they come back? Will they follow you? Will they become fans of you? That's a whole different thing. And in social media, those are factors that need to be taken upon as well. You can't just rely on just shooting something with a good camera and just expect followers to start flying in, and fans, and really people who really love your work. That's gonna come with a whole set of different things, which don't necessarily rely on getting new gear and stuff like that. So here's the thing, like so like I said, like if I was starting all over again, going out and buying all this new gears, first of all, the expense. So you obviously, like, if you want to get yourself some good high-end gear, it's going to cost you a couple of thousands of dollars in order for you to get some really good, decent stuff. And if you aren't going to go for high-end stuff, which is why I suggest that you wait, is because you actually want to get the good stuff, the good high-end expensive stuff. You don't want to get the high-end stuff that's supposed to be high-end, but it's really not. It's like on the cheaper side, but it's supposed to be perceived as the higher end. So if you're gonna get higher end equipment, make sure it's actually higher end equipment, and it's not just like a pretend type of deal, where you're buying like one of those cameras that's like non-branded and like nobody's heard of, and on the description it says that it shoots in 4K and it does all this stuff, the aperture and everything, all the settings are like perfect and stuff, right? Like you don't really want to go for that kind of equipment, because that kind of equipment is usually lies, and they're usually scams, and so you don't want to end up wasting your money on gear that's not actually good. So the thing is that if you want to actually get good gear, it's going to be pretty expensive. So you're going to have to spend money right off the bat. And so, if you have the money at the beginning and you kind of have that money just to spare and it really won't hurt for you to just go and spend it, then sure, why not? Go and, knock yourself out and have fun and play around. And here's the second thing though, but going and that's a whole different thing. I'll get into it in just a little bit, but just to finish this off, like, it's going to be expensive. So if you're ready to spend that kind of money, then go for it. But I would personally suggest that you don't, and I'll go into why not in just a second, but just hear me out here. It is quite expensive in the beginning if you want to get yourself higher end equipment. So the second thing is that, I was saying that just kind of play around, right? So you will have to do a lot of playing around because, second of all, using higher end equipment, whether it's a camera, whether it's lighting, whether it's a lens, whether it's software, all of those things, once you step into the higher end type of things, there will be a learning curve. So you will have to take at least some sort of tutorials. You will have to take some tutorials. You will have to take classes probably. And you will have to put in a lot of practice in order for you to even get to a level where you can decently use that software, use that piece of equipment, where you can use it at a decent level where like a normal person could use it, and that's just getting it to a point where you can decently use it. Now, if you want to create content with it, you want to create like really cool stuff with it, now you got to go even through more learning and more practice, and as opposed to you starting off with something like as simple as a phone where the learning curve is much shorter. Everything is pretty much more like a done for you type of deal. And a lot of the settings are already kind of set by the phone by default. So you're almost like ready to go when it comes to using more of the less complicated gear. Now, obviously, I'm a tech guy, so that's why I went the other route, and I could, dabble around and use a bunch of different expensive gear because I am a tech guy. And plus, I love to learn stuff. I don't really mind going through the whole learning curve because I understand that that's kind of what's necessary sometimes if you're stepping into a new level, you're upgrading. There's usually that learning curve that you got to go through in order for you to get comfortable in a whole new setting, get comfortable with using new software, new gear, and stuff like that. So if that's you, if you're someone who's like a techie and then you love to learn stuff, then probably, you'll be just fine upgrading your equipment and upgrading your software whenever it is that you have the means to afford it. But if you don't, if you kind of like, if you're kind of the person that just kind of likes things to just kind of be easy, and you want just things to just work, and you really like to mess around with the equipment and the software as much, you don't really like to go into the settings and kind of do tweaks and stuff and having to figure things out like that, then probably upgrading to a more expensive piece of equipment and software may not be the best move, because then that could be a little bit discouraging. Because if you're upgrading and then you're expecting this to be kind of easy, and then you go out there and you try to shoot content and it doesn't look good because you didn't put in the correct settings, and you're not properly adjusting your camera in order for it to capture the content that you want, then it's very easy to start getting discouraged and kind of just start getting lazy with things, and you kind of just start not wanting to create content because now you're like, oh man, like I want to create content, but then I have to grab that camera and then I have to adjust the settings, and then sometimes the settings don't work. And like the thing is, like even with DSLRs, the perfect scenario is when you're shooting in the same place the same place, and like the line never changes and nothing ever changes. The set is always the same and stuff. But the thing is that sometimes that's really not the case, especially if you're going to use it to shoot content for food. You're going to be going to a new restaurant all the time. Sometimes within the restaurant, the lighting is different in every single section of the restaurant. So then you got to change the settings consistently in order to adjust to every single place of the restaurant. And then once you hit the editing software as well, every single shot, you shot it in a different spot too. And so now you gotta edit everything kind of differently, because every single shot was shot differently. It was shot in a different place, so every place had different lighting. The colors were a little bit different, and so you gotta adjust everything so that at the end the entire video looks like it was shot. It almost looked like it was shot in the same place, but it wasn't. But it has the same consistent coloring, the same consistent lighting throughout the video. That way, like, the video actually flows properly, as opposed to everything like looks weird, like everything looks like it was shot in the same place, but the lighting looks a little bit off, and the mood and the tones are all different. And so now, like, you're kind of creating a mixed message with the viewer, whether they realize it or not. They might feel like something's off about the video, and so you don't want that. So that's why you got to go into the settings and adjust all these things. And so a lot of people won't really want to do that, and so that's why it's better to just stick to the more simplistic stuff, the stuff that's more straightforward. Just like your phone will automatically adjust its colors and its lighting, everything depending on where you're at, in order for it to create a consistent set of videos. That way, when you go into the editing software, you can still go in there and still do some editing, but it won't be as much. Be a more simplistic edit, as opposed to if you shot with a more higher end equipment. And so, yeah. And so that's another con there. And third, and then another con is that obviously you're going to be going around, you're going to be shooting with higher end equipment and stuff like that. You do run the risk of losing something. You do run the risk of it kind of getting damaged. You do run the risk of something may happen, and usually sometimes it's like take a DSLR for example. There's a lot of things that come with that. The battery can get damaged, or you just might run out of battery or something. And then it's not like a phone where you can just plug it in and charge it. You gotta actually have a specific dock, in order to charge those batteries. Memory cards, that's a huge one. I myself, when I was using the DSLR, you have no idea how many times I would just run out of storage, or I would forget the memory card, and now you can't even use your higher end equipment because you're missing the memory card. And so that's an extra thing that you got to carry with you. You got to remember to always carry storage with you. Or sometimes the memory card is just full and you can't just delete stuff because you never backed anything up. So it's just things like that. And so things can get lost really easily. Things can get damaged. Maybe your battery just dies out of nowhere, and it just it actually dies, and so it just stops working altogether and stuff. And so that's a problem. And so there's those kind of things and more that could really affect your entire experience, as far as using brand new equipment and using more of the higher end equipment. So those are the takes, really. And so really, kind of to summarize everything up, as far as doing what you can with what you currently have, I would definitely take that to heart and really use what you currently have in order to start. And so sometimes that may not be much. You might just have a phone. You might just have maybe you don't even have a computer. So then you could use your phone in order to start editing those videos, those pictures. There's already apps that can help you edit. And so you don't really need to download a whole entire program on a computer, as opposed to, that was something that you had to do back in the day, because the apps on the phone weren't really stable. And believe me, I tried many times back in the day. Like I said, I'm a techie, so and I have a degree in IT, and so I would play around with tech like you have no idea. And so one of the things that I would play around was finding software on the phone that would work in order for me to edit videos on my phone, because sometimes I didn't want to edit. I didn't want to transfer all my files, because before you would have to take all the videos and pictures and everything that you would edit on your phone, that you would take on your phone. You would have to transfer them into a computer, whether that was through a cable, or sometimes the phones themselves had a memory card, so you can just plug that into the computer. And so that was the way that you would really edit your content. It would have to be on a computer. And to me, that kind of process was a little bit too much. So I was like, why isn't there like an app or something where we can kind of shortcut this and just get the editing done straight on the phone, since the content is already living on the phone. However, at the time, back in those days, years ago, there just wasn't an app that was stable. There was apps that were good, but then the interface was really confusing, so you couldn't really find things. And then like the actual like the interfaces, the actual really navigating through the whole entire app, it was very difficult as well, because like the touch settings were sometimes didn't really work. So then you would press, you would touch, obviously you would touch your phone in order for you to click on something, and it just wouldn't work or something, or it'll take like 5-10 seconds in order for it to work. And by then you're already out of the app, because you're thinking that this app doesn't work, or it froze or something because it's not clicking. And so yeah, it was just like weird glitches that it would have, or it was the app would just straight up crash. And so because you would start adding files, whether you're trying to edit a video, you added files into the editing app, and then the app would just crash. And that just it was frustrating, because it was like, come on, man, how is it that I cannot handle these videos and stuff, and the videos weren't even like high end. We're talking about maybe 480p 720p videos and stuff, and they were at basic 28 frames per second or something like that. And so very low end, low resolution type of videos, and the apps would still have a hard time handling them. Now imagine throwing in a 4K video into one of those old apps. My goodness, I think the whole phone would crash at that point. You would have to restart the entire phone, just because I think it just definitely would not be able to handle it. But nowadays, there's there's lots of stable apps that you can use in order to edit straight to the phone. You can still do the transferring thing, and there's more better ways now to transfer your files into a computer now. Most of them are wireless now, so that's very good. So you don't really need to be looking around for your wire, because that's another thing too. Back in the day, you would have to you would have to hope that you found the wire that goes from your phone to your computer, which usually was the same wire that you would use in order to charge your phone. But sometimes, maybe some of you guys know this, but some cables are just designed just to charge. So then, if you try to connect it to the computer, all it would do is just start charging the phone, and it wouldn't do any data. And so that would be frustrating as well. And so a lot of little quirks here and there, but nowadays, everything is pretty good. And so being able to just work with a phone, a decent phone, whether it's an Android phone or it's an iPhone. I mean, if it's an iPhone, for the most part, you're going to be good and set. If it's an Android phone, I guess it depends on the brand and the model. But, if you have a decent one, whether it's a Google Pixel, I would say more than if it's a Google Pixel 6 and up, I think it should be all right. If it's a Samsung, if it's a Samsung Galaxy 11 and up, I think you should be pretty good as well. And there's other Android phones. There's the OnePlus. There's I can't really think of many. Let me see. I'm trying to think of more Android phones. By the way, I have two phones. So I have an iPhone, which is the phone that I'm using right now to record this podcast, and I also have a Google Pixel 7 Pro, which is the main phone that I usually use in order for me to go out there and create content for all the food, all the restaurants and stuff. But I do use the iPhone sometimes as well to capture content. And I personally, when I made the switch, which I still have to talk about in a little bit, but I didn't make the switch. But when I made the switch, I did start off with an iPhone. But yeah, so that's pretty much like the cons, the pros of getting yourself some higher end gear, equipment, software, and stuff like that. Just keep in mind, just keep in mind the expense, the learning curve, and obviously, the fact that things will get disorganized, you get lost. So you have to be very, very organized, and to some extent, at the end of the day, if you're upgrading to higher end equipment, gear, software, whatever, it really does imply that you're going to become more of a professional person. So with that professional kind of branding, with that kind of professional take on things, you're taking things more seriously. It's not just a perception now anymore. You actually have to be that professional behind the scenes as well if you want to carry out, a decent a decent product out there once you start producing content with that high-end gear and software. And so that's basically how you can summarize it. So if you're ready to be a professional, you go and you get your gear and stuff. If you're just kind of dabbling or you're just kind of starting off, like I said, it's a much better idea to just work with what you currently have. Now, if you were gifted a DSLR or something, or somebody just decided to donate some gear, some software, they donated a laptop to you with software already pre-installed in there, or somebody else decided to just fund you and basically pay for all your stuff, then by all means, go ahead and enjoy yourself, knock yourself out. But believe me, you got to keep these principles in place because they will eventually catch up to you, especially with the learning curve part. Like I said, you can be handed all these things to you, but if you're not willing to go through the learning curve of putting in the practice and taking the necessary classes and tutorials and getting that knowledge in, then all this equipment, software is just going to be sitting there and you're just going to have it, but you're not going to be able to use it to its fullest potential, which at the end, it really, really, depreciates the fact that you even have this high-end gear and software in the first place. So now let me just talk about in summary, and let me talk about the time when I made the transition in order to go from the DSLR to just using the phone for all my shoots, all my current shoots. Now, obviously right now I do use both depending on what I need to do because not all content now is just for social media. Some content does, I make content for screens on them restaurants. I don't know if you've ever seen a screen on a restaurant that's kind of playing on loop, and you can kind of see a bunch of the random dishes just being made there and stuff like that. And so I make videos like that as well. And for those, I use a DSLR, obviously, because it's not for social media. It's more for somebody to just admire and see and really appreciate the quality of the food. And so because of that, the perception really matters there. And so having a more higher end quality video that was shot in a more higher end camera, it kind of signifies it kind of gives the food a little bit more value. And so that's why I would use more of a higher end equipment there. But yeah, so the reason why I made the transition is basically because of social media, and because I understood that I understood, like at first, it was I was more focused on just the quality of the content. I was just focused on the perception. But then I realized I also got to keep in mind that like I said, we're talking about social media here, so there's other factors and other things that matter here as opposed to the that matter here, because we're talking about social media. So there's things like so there's other things that matter. So you can't really how do you call it, yeah, but there's basically other things that matter here. And so you can't just So because so when it comes to social media, there's other things that matter, such as like what kind of consumer base is on social media, and like I said, most people on social media, they're just trying to have a good time. They're just trying to distract themselves from the real world. Just want to go in there and see something interesting, see something cool, see something funny, see something that's just distracting. They're not really trying to go inside social media and see some really cool DSLR videos, that look like really cool and high end, and like, oh my God, that was shot really beautifully. Like, look at that shot, look at the lighting, that was so good. Look at the cinematic, look at the transitions, right? Oh my goodness, that is fire. Like, most people are not going in there to do that. They just kind of want to find cool videos, something funny, something to distract themselves, something that can make them forget about the real world at the end of the day. And so because of that, and because most of that content, if you and it also matters to take a look at what's the content that really grabs attention in that platform. So like social media, like Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, you want to see what kind of content really grabs people's attention. So look at the videos that go viral, and look at the videos that get a lot of views. Especially, it doesn't really have to be, the ones in your industry, but just in general, like what videos really do well in that kind of platform. And from what I saw is that the majority of the videos that I see there, they were just shot on a simple phone. And there's something about just shooting on the simple phone that really, gives it a, yeah, I guess it gives it a boost, really, because by using a phone, it really says that it makes it a little bit more just more easier to consume, because it was just shot on a phone. Everybody has a phone, so it's something that they can relate to. Not only that, but it's like it could inspire other creators as well. So when they see your videos, they're like, wow, like I could probably do that too. That was just shot on a phone. As long as I have a good creative, as long as I have some creativity, I have some knowledge, I have some like vision, I could just pull out my phone and I could start creating content just like these people. And so because of that, people see a piece of content, maybe one piece of content went viral, and so that inspires other people to be like, hey, what, maybe I can post some videos on social media as well. So I go in there and I start posting too. And so they see that it was shot on the phone, and so yeah. And then second of all, I figured that because for this industry, what I'm shooting food. Like I said, I go behind the scenes a lot, and there's a lot of movement for the most part. And so the thing is that and then the thing is, another thing, well, actually, let me finish that thought first. But yeah, so because of that, like the phone is a lot better at really really when it comes to capturing the focus and everything and moving around. It's better able to adapt to that kind of speed of movement while you're doing that kind of stuff, as opposed to the DSLR, which takes a little bit of time. At least the one I had, obviously I can always upgrade later, but that goes to my next point. And my next point is that the majority of the work that I was doing, it was mostly free. And the reason why it was free is because I was just trying to get my name out there at the beginning. And so because of that, I was just pretty much just recording left and right, whatever I could. All I was taking was really just food at the end of the day as form of payment. And so that to me was more than enough, because I was getting exposure. I was getting myself known out there. And so I was appearing on all these videos. I was appearing as a collaborator in all these restaurants, and so that was kind of helping me boost my brand and boost who I am as a person and stuff. People were getting to know me, and so this is a pretty good, solid marketing strategy. Nothing fancy. This is pretty much you probably hear this all the time. Like if you want to get known, sometimes you just kind of have to bite the bullet there and just go out there, do stuff for free, and until basically people know you and they can appreciate the quality of work that you do, and then you can start charging a good amount of money in order to carry out your services and provide content. But until then, if nobody knows you, you don't really have a track record, then it's time to kind of build one. And you can easily build one off of just doing free work, because that allows you to easily just go in there, start working with restaurants really quickly, and start demonstrating your value, start getting practice, which is another thing too that's very, very important, which not a lot of people do, but you need to put in the practice if you want to really get good at doing what you do. And so this is a great way to do it. And so because of that, it didn't really make sense for me to continue using the DSLR, because like I said, the DSLR obviously it was memory card, so I had to transfer that out. And then I figured that it would be much easier to just shoot on the phone and then just edit on the phone as well, as opposed to going from the DSLR, having to transfer everything to the computer, then having to edit on the computer itself. And it was good for the time being in the beginning, because I wasn't getting as much work. I wasn't doing as many shoots. But once the amount of work started to increase, and I started getting called by a lot of restaurants to come and shoot videos for them, then it just made more sense to just go for the phone, because the phone is better adapted to that. The phone can easily get me to start shooting right away, because I'm always with my phone, with my DSLR. Like I said, it's something that you got to bring with you. You got to bring everything. You got to bring your batteries. You got to bring your memory cards and everything, which is not a bad thing. But I would really, what I said to myself is that I would kind of really save that. If I'm going to be putting in that much work when it came to the DSLR, I'd rather just save that for more serious jobs, for more of a more serious work. And so that's kind of what I did at that point. So now it's been separated. So now I don't pull up to any free collabs or any free events or stuff like that with my DSLR, because at the end of the day, it's just it's all kind of just free work. And so I would rather just pull up with my phone that I already carry with me. It's very easy. I can just, start shooting right away, and I can actually edit everything right away, because all the content is already on the phone. I have the app. Everything's ready for me to just start editing. Same thing with the pictures. I can take pictures right away with my phone, and I could edit them right on the spot. And also, like I said, this is content for social media, so the content can easily be uploaded right away into social media, because my social media apps are on my phone as well. The edited piece of content is also on my phone. So everything starts and ends on my phone. And so that's the reason why I figured that it would be much easier to do that, because of the process. It's far more effective. Now, obviously, if I was shooting for like a TV or something, like I said, where I use my DSLR, obviously then I could bypass the phone, because I'm not going to be uploading anything to social media. So then, yes, I could. And then if I am going to charge, then yes, it would make sense for me to pull up with something a little bit more professional, like I said, because now it's a little bit more serious. I'm charging actual money, so now I can pull up with something a little bit more serious. Now, obviously, do I pull up with my phone as well to do some paid work? Of course I do. But if it's for social media, I've already put in a lot of practice, and so I know that using the camera, using my phone will be a better idea when it comes to doing social media work. But when it comes to doing other kinds of work that's not going to involve social media, then yes, I can consider using the DSLR, getting everything ready, my batteries, my memory cards and everything, and use my high-end software and edit everything on the computer, and then put it wherever it needs to go on a USB drive, or I can send it. Or I can send it or something like that. But yeah, I mean, and so it's much easier for me to do it that way. And so yeah. And so at the end of the day, you just got to be aware. You're just going to be aware, like, what you're shooting. Like I said, this is going to vary depending on what industry you're in. Like I said, in some industries, it may be a normal thing to just use DSLR, so it might not be like a huge deal for you. So maybe purchasing the high-end software and the high-end gear may actually be necessary in the beginning for some industries, just because if you don't even have those, you can't even get started. And so that's something that you're gonna have to consider if you're planning on stepping into that industry in the first place. So And but even then, like if you don't have it, you can always do other things. You can, like I said, you can have somebody else fund it for you. Maybe you have a friend or someone who really believes in you and wants to help fund your little journey here. So maybe they have a they have some spare cash, or maybe they have connections with a gear shop or something, and they can hook you up real good. Maybe you can pull out a loan or something, get some credit and then pay off your gear as you go. Maybe you can you can ask people to lend you money. You can even rent equipment too if necessary. Maybe you don't know how to use it just yet, so then renting it may be a good option just for you to start getting yourself really familiar with the equipment, and looking how every single piece of equipment works. And then at the end of the day, once you find something that really works for you, then maybe you might consider buying the one that you're most comfortable with, the one that you feel like this is going to be the one for the job. And same for like editing software. Most editing softwares, you can either get like a good trial period for you to just kind of get familiar with the piece of software, kind of use it for a little bit for free, and then see how it works out. Sometimes you're able to get them at a discount, whether it's like sometimes like during holiday seasons and stuff like that. Usually companies offer like a good discount on their piece of software. If you like buy it for, if it's like a subscription type of a software, like usually they'll offer you like a whole year subscription for this amount, where as before it was like maybe $200 for the whole year. Now you can get it for like $100 or something. It's still, it's still going to cost you something, but it's not going to cost you the full price. So then you can take advantage of that huge discount and just go for it like that. And that way you can get access to higher end equipment. But whatever the case may be, you gotta really study your industry, see what's used, and then approach everything as best as possible. But like I said, always take this approach of using what you can with what you're doing, what you can with what you currently have, and then just go from there. I would definitely take this in a step-by-step process. So whatever you have, use that. And as you gain more knowledge, as you gain more experience, as you gain more money, really, and as you start getting paid more, as you start to get yourself out there, start getting recognized, then yes, upgrades will definitely be necessary at every stage of your growth, because eventually, obviously, you always want to keep you want to keep up with whatever is going on out there, and also you always want to deliver more and more. You always want to work on improving your quality of work, and so gear, software, that may be the way to go. But always work on improving, always work on growing, always work on giving your audience something new to look forward to. So that is it. I'm running out of time here. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope you guys took a lot of knowledge from it. And yeah, as always, it's your boy, the Foodie Filmmaker. Please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel here on YouTube, the Foodie Filmmaker. And make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Foodie Filmmaker. And also follow the Instagram of the podcast, tff.podcast on Instagram. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And also, by the way, if you want to be a guest, on this episode, I've decided that I want to open that up again. And so this time I do have a form that you guys can fill out. It's going to be down below in the description. So if you want to be a guest here, look for the form down below, and there's like a few questions there. It's like a little questionnaire that I put together in order for you to answer. It's gonna kind of help us get to a topic that we can both kind of talk about in the episode and everything, and see if we're a good fit for it as well. And then you fill that out, and then once I get the notification that you filled it out, I'll go ahead and go through it. And then if I'm convinced that you're a guest, that you're worthy of having down here, and then we'll go ahead and contact you, and we can set up a date in order for us to carry out the episode. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.